Oh, there is little bits in there. So we sometimes clean it. Maybe I can check that.
Yeah,
If he
hold it
can-
up again.
Yeah. He
Yes,
has.
that's it.
He helped
Okay,
Don
good,
and
good.
Candace, I believe.
Yeah.
But we
Good,
got
thank
in
you.
and there was like spider webs or something in there.
That's good too, by the way.
And shoot the little can of spray. Yeah. Can maybe spray some air in there. If not, I'll make a note to check my. I'll email you. I'll check if
Right
the
here,
town
ma'am.
source has a thing
Yep.
of like a troubleshooting. Yeah, and if not, we definitely have a number to call them anyway. So if you know, yeah, yeah. Okay. Good. It's well, they monitor it remotely, so they would get an alarm if anything happens. Like even when we but with all the power things that might have happened in the
Got to
last
tell you,
couple
Sterling,
days,
your
it might
supervisor
be a
report is
reset.
really good, real in
They
depth.
might
I
need
appreciate that
Good,
too.
good.
And
Good.
while you're here, I was
Thank
just
you.
going to mention
Glad it's
too
working.
that to let Charlie know we have all these cordless mics now. He doesn't need to set up
Evening.
a cord for that. He set up the cord and put it, which was fine, but he doesn't need
So
to.
what I'll do,
No, we'll just bring
the
down. We'll
supervisor's
keep these
report is
locked
number
in
5
there.
when you're
We'll
looking
just
at the
bring them down,
resolutions.
turn them
The
on.
third bullet is the water district.
Yeah.
I'm going to
And-
start. I'm going to do a little bit of it very
It's fine.
basically, and then I'm going to call on you to make some general comments about the general
Nick.
history and structure over the last couple of years, the financing, the requirements, the phase 1 and 2, and the current billing. Okay. All right. Sounds good.
I'll answer some questions too. There's a lot of people I see
I
on
hear
social
it.
media and stuff.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
The problem is, we have how many people here? We should have 10 times the people here.
Are you
I
busy
don't know
today?
how to.
You can't get them out.
I know,
of these
and that's
things
been that
or
way
no?
since it's always the way,
My son
and
had
it's disappointing.
colonoscopy at 6
Oh,
a.m.
jeez.
I'm glad to see we're moving forward with the North River, the
Yeah.
road project.
Yes,
up there, 'cause
we
we
are.
got money invested in
You
that.
got it going.
And
Just
not only that, it's
Okay.
going to be much less expensive
fixable,
to
it's,
do it before we have a catastrophic washout.
which was
Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
So yeah, I
For
was
sure.
like 5
Yeah,
o'clock.
Nick.
Not to mention what it does to
You
the
have a
fishery and the
question.
stream and everything too when you dump all that extra crap. in.
Oh, you're just saying. It's good to see. Are you?
to have
I'm
you.
going to see you tomorrow too, right? Or is not you? Okay. I don't know.
At what?
Is that just parcel B tomorrow?
It's mainly parcel B,
Yeah.
Okay.
but there will be some tangential discussion with regards to wells because they're mentioned in the memos of understanding, one of which is 21 years old and the other is 18 years old. And I think it places some reliance on well 5, which is not a good situation, as you know.
I can talk with John too and see if one of us, or like he's gonna definitely go.
Yeah.
I'll talk to him and see if I have any more knowledge.
Come along if you want to come. Bring a pizza.
If he's got time.
Today, Nick's sitting
Nice to
there.
see you,
if
Nick.
Want to sit with Nick? I think he was looking for you too.
Yeah, so I was like early morning, and then I went. After that, I went. And
There's one of them with questions there. I see Scott Allard walking in. He pumped a couple of things on.
okay,
So
forgot
Yeah, I
about
saw it
the
this
screen,
morning.
and then I
good
was
that he's
running
here
it.
actually.
I agree.
So and then
Right from the horse's mouth.
I grouped a little. I had a ton of phone calls, but that was
I just planned a trip to Mexico City.
good.
Like after our board meeting, so Casey was like, she wanted to go like end of April.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's gonna miss the
You got,
board
like,
meeting.
You
Well,
got, no, you got two weeks of them.
yes, but it was into the we were gonna miss the first meeting in May, and she was like, you could miss the meeting, and I was like, but then there was some hotel stuff as well, so I pushed it.
So when?
It's like the May 9th
Oh,
to
yeah. So the week.
the 17th or something like that. I mean, maybe we'll try to go to Oaxaca from Mexico City, but we're going to Mexico City.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Good. We're.
That was my big. I mean, I did.
I'm gonna miss
work.
August 5th board meeting.
I'm gonna miss the one second meeting in
Second
September.
meeting in September. That's okay.
Any
Like, you
ideas
can
on
miss it.
Tony?
I was like,
Uh,
trying not
yeah.
to.
I mean, he should be all. Oh.
We're ready to go.
We have to sign in.
Meeting to order and then
Oh,
Tony, or?
All right.
Yeah, she's trying to find him. Get ready.
Oh, Tony.
Tony.
Fun stuff.
There we are.
You're on.
All right. You see me?
He's doing
You
it.
hear
remote.
me?
See you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, we gotta watch.
He'll turn you up when it's time, but we haven't started the
Okay.
meeting officially yet, so I
All
just
right,
wanted to
good.
make
All
sure
right.
you were there.
I'm here.
Okay. Hold tight.
You ready? Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Is the mic good? Am I good up there?
He thumbs
That's a
up.
thumb up, I think.
Yes.
Okay. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Nancy, would you lead us? Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First is the call to order.
I'm going to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone here. Item number 3, next on our agenda, is a presentation from Tony Cucciara regarding Teddy Roosevelt's celebration, which has been in the planning stages for a long time. This September will mark the 125th anniversary of TR's midnight ride to the presidency, arrival at the North Creek train station. There's been planning work in session for months with the towns of Newcomb, Minerva, and Johnsburg, the historical districts from each of those towns, several museums, including Adirondack Experience, some contact and cooperation with, I think, the Albany Library. There are a number of events already scheduled. It's a very ambitious program, and I'd like to welcome Tony to the meeting, and I'm hopeful that he can give us a few minutes and just introduce us to the website that has been developed so that we can get public awareness out there. And again, this is not going to be like a one-day thing. It's going to be a series of events that span several months. Tony, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
We're
Thank
gonna-
you, Supervisor. Good speed. And thank you all for inviting me to speak with you tonight about our upcoming 125th anniversary of Roosevelt's night ride to the presidency. As the supervisor mentioned, it's quite an ambitious program. We've been working on this since February of 2025. We've been meeting monthly. In addition to the other organizations mentioned by the supervisor, we've had Candace at Murray at Tannery helping us. We've had people at ADKX up in Blue Mountain Lake working with us, and people up at Newcomb as well, Minerva and others. So it's really been a real major community effort. And so I'm delighted to be here, and I want to thank the supervisor and certainly the board for inviting me. I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but again, thanks to Mindy and Mike Wilson for putting together this Zoom meeting. So what I'd like to do is just review some of the things that we've been up to. In addition to talking about the website that has been created for this event, and I hope you've all received your postcards. And it has the QR events. In fact, just before I came on, I was told by Mike Wilson that the URL for the website is now live. And so there are QR codes on that card, and you can scan those, and that'll get you right to the links. And that's where you'll be able to follow us as to all the activities that we have planned, upcoming activities, what's been established and set so far, and what's to come as well. But in addition to that, what I want to do is also to thank the town of Johnsburg for their very, very generous occupancy tax grant, which is enabling us to do several important projects. One is creating a illustrative map of the night ride of to the presidency by Teddy Roosevelt. It's being illustrated by Bob McNamara, a very known illustrator who was doing that work for us, as well as the research is being done by Don Savaggio and Robert Engel at the Depot Museum. And that should be available and ready for publication starting, I believe, the April 15th. And so we're getting ready for that. So the funding from the town has been instrumental in getting that project going. In addition, the second project is the dramatization of Eloise Cronin Murphy's booklet, known as Teddy Roosevelt's Ride to the Presidency, which is really the Bible as it relates to the night ride and that very hazardous ride down from Newcomb to North Creek. And Robin J. and the Gem Radio players are going to be dramatizing that event as well. And that should be available sometime by late August, early September. Exact dates have to be established yet. So that's the second project that we're working on. Again, the funding from the town's occupancy tax. The third one is these special anniversary exhibits, both at the Johnsburg Historical Society and also at the Depot Museum. And they will be ready with the opening of our season come Memorial Day weekend. And lastly is a parade. And the parade has been set up for Saturday, September the 12th. And that parade will include a horse-drawn carriage, a carriage very similar to the one driven by Mike Cronin from Aiden Lair to North Creek. And that was the last leg of that ride, 16 miles to get TR to the platform at the depot, where he was handed a telegram by his personal secretary, Robert Loeb, saying that McKinley had passed and that he was now the president. And so that event is going to be somewhat recreated. Also, the parade will come down Main Street. It will be led by this horse-drawn vehicle. There will be vintage cars following that. And we're working on now is getting a marching band, perhaps from the town of Johnsburg Central School District, and also a bagpiping band and a few other things as well. So that's still in the process of development at this point. But it will happen on Saturday the 12th, which is History Weekend. And so it'll kick off between 2 and 2:30 that afternoon. And it'll come down Main Street and then lead to the Depot Museum, where we will be met by Joe Wiggin. And I'm sure that name is familiar to many people. He's the wonderful impersonator of TR, encyclopedic knowledge of Teddy Roosevelt. And he will be addressing the audience once we all gather in front of the Depot Museum. So that's a lot of fun to put together, a lot of moving parts, as you can well imagine, figuratively and literally, but it should be all fun to really commemorate a national historical event of great importance, as well as a very important regional event. So we're really excited by all of this. And so with that, what I like to do is bring up the the website that we have for the event. So let me bring that up, and then I can walk you through that. Excuse me. Mindy, we need to have the sharing event, sharing setting open.
Should be. Double check. Hang on. Let me give you. Okay, should be good to go.
Okay, oops. Can you see the screen?
Nope. It's enabled.
look.
I'm not sure why.
Okay, let me see. Uh, Okay. Let me see. Okay, I think here we have it now. Okay, is that visible? Okay. In fact, just before we came on, Mike Wilson, who is the creative genius and technical person behind the creation of this website, just told me that it is now live. So it's very fortuitous that tonight was the night that this is now going live and everyone has availability to it. As I mentioned before, the QR codes will get you to this site and also to the Facebook site for the Teddy Roosevelt's Night Ride to the Presidency. As you can see, we're only 179 days away from September the 14th in 1901, when Teddy Roosevelt learned that he had become president. So on the homepage, you'll see this beautiful watercolor by June Borjo depicting that night ride with Mike Cronin coming down to North Creek. Members of our advisory board includes, and the honorary chairman is former Governor George Pataki. And Governor Pataki was quite a devotee of Teddy Roosevelt, and from what I understand, very instrumental in securing funds for the restoration of the Depot Museum. And we're hoping to invite him to a few events, and hopefully he can join us as our honorary chairman. And again, I want to thank Supervisor Goodspeed for reaching out to his contacts and reaching out to Governor Pataki and his willingness to join our advisory board. Organizations that were mentioned before, well, where do we go with this? Okay. Okay. Okay, we have an issue here. Okay, because it's live, I'm using the older site. But if you go through this, you're going to see various things. Under events will be all the events that we have scheduled thus far. The first one is on April the 8th, and it's a webinar with Paul Grondel, a writer from the Times Union, who has written extensively on Teddy Roosevelt. And he's going to be talking about that night ride. And I will be joining him on that Zoom call. And that will be our first event. And then on May the 14th at the station, the Timber and Time restaurant, we're going to have our trivia night. And trivia night is going to be a lot of fun. So you need to brush up on your TR, and it'll be held at the station that night on the 14th of May. Then comes June, we have multiple speakers. We have about 8 to 10 speakers, who will be talking about various aspects of Teddy Roosevelt's life. As you well know, he was a very, very complex, interesting man. And so we have people like Mary Calvi, who is a Emmy Award-winning journalist who's written a book about the early days and romance of Teddy Roosevelt and Alice Roosevelt. So we have people talking about the type of firearms that he owned. We have people talking about his various interests in birding. In fact, we have Joan Collins, a known birder in the Adirondacks, speaking about Teddy Roosevelt and his birding interest. We also have Bill McKibben, who will be talking at our annual gala about the environmentalists in Teddy Roosevelt. And then as you go across, you'll see sponsors and contributors, contact information, and a donation button, and also resources. And And let's see if I can open this. No, that's not opening. Okay. Uh, There you'll find various articles written about Teddy Roosevelt. You're going to find a photo gallery, a variety of pictures that have been entered. And we'll be adding more as time goes on. I'm sorry I couldn't show you this on the screen tonight, but this is what you'll find when you go to this website. In addition to the website, there's also our Facebook page, which you can go there. And that's where you'll get frequent updates on activities both that have been planned and those that are yet to be set. So with that, I'd be willing to take any questions you may have.
Anyone? Any questions? No? I guess not, Tony. You answered them all.
Okay. Again, thank you so much for the invitation. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mindy. So that brings us to item 4 on the agenda. I would accept a motion to accept the minutes of the regular meeting that was conducted in this building on March 4, 2026.
Motion.
Second. Made, seconded, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. President's report. Briefly, a few items. I had a meeting last week with our insurance agent. It's the Mark Carpenter and Erica Patton. Generally, it's something that comes through annually. We review provisions. He asks if we have any questions. Erica is our really go-to person locally. She does a wonderful job for us. And I put a couple of highlights there to mention. In our review of town buildings and operations, functions, things that are covered by the policy, we did a fairly detailed review, and we came up with one question that we don't have an answer to, and that has to do with the Minder Lodge. So the Minder Lodge is the subject of a memorandum of understanding between the town of Johnsburg and ORDA. So we're in 2 6-month periods that constitute each year, the ski season and the summer. So clearly, ORDA has coverage in place for their 6 months. As we went through the current policy, I developed a genuine concern that we perhaps did not have the coverage we should have for the 6-month period that is the town's use period, which includes programming, youth programs, and things of that nature. So I've asked them to go back, review that, and get back in touch with me to try and confirm that either we have something that meets with our satisfaction or what the cost would be of adding that. I think obviously it's significant exposure. You have children playing sports in the park, on the ball diamond, in the pavilion. We also have social events, wedding receptions and so on in that time of year, and meetings. So we're waiting to hear back from Erica and Mark Carpenter on that. Item B is an umbrella modification. And in our discussions with Mark in particular, we were able to conclude that by slightly increasing some of our deductibles, the amount that we have to cover up front if there's a claim, we can actually enhance our umbrella protection. Our umbrella protection right now is at $4 million. At no cost except the modifications of the deductibles, we can increase that umbrella by $2 million to $6 million, which I think is much more in keeping with what's going on in this area of late. So that's something that we'll have a motion on shortly, I think at number 6. So you talk about a transition. We were winding down, and Peter Olszewski popped into the room and said, "I got to see you right now." So we spoke for a little while in an alcove, and he told me there was a situation developing over in the park. And I had my assistant Joanne call David Crickler, who's the CEO of the Front Street Development Corporation, and told him we would meet him in the park in 5 minutes. We immediately went to the park, and to make a long story short, in front of the Minder Lodge, there are 2 3,000-gallon septic tanks that service Crickler's subdivision. And above the septic tanks, there are 5 items, which this is not the technical name, but it works for me. They look like lids, okay? And the northernmost lid had suffered some sort of a breakage. I inquired of Mr. Crickler what precisely was going on, and without getting too specific, I did not get a very satisfactory answer. Did not get an answer. The contractor arrived on the scene, and we were able to ascertain that a pump had frozen inside the system, and that the stuff in there was trying to find the easiest way out to move because it wasn't getting pumped to the next location. And the easiest way out was straight up. And so when Peter had been at the park, about 8 in the morning, he had actually seen open septic product gurgling out of the ground and into the parkland. It was a very unpleasant situation. Again, initially, David was in some denial. The odor was atrocious, and when the contractor confirmed that we had a frozen pump, David agreed to shut it down. So what that means is Peter immediately shut off the bathrooms in the pavilion. We're in the 4 to 6 month period of use with regards to the Joe Minder Lodge, so I reached out to Bone Bays, the Gore manager, and he immediately shut down the bathrooms in the Minder Lodge. So this is a repair that will not be conducted for some time. We need a little bit of warm weather, and it's Front Street's problem. It's their cost. It's their repair. I sent an email to David on Friday asking him to remediate the situation on the land over there because there's a pile of waste. And it's not too offensive right now because it's cold out. It's going to become offensive again. I have not received a reply to my email. Some people are happy that I'm pretty open about what goes on in day-to-day events. Some people think maybe I give too much detail. This is our park, and his system poured a pile of poop into it, and it's still sitting there. And rather than fixing it, he or his agents placed 2 poles on it, some orange crime scene tape, and a wooden grate over the top of it. So that's the status of it right now. We reached out to our engineers. He had not reported it to DEC, which he was supposed to. I had the engineers report it to DEC. DEC has acknowledged receipt of that report, and it's something we're still working on. I saw a hand, yes. I believe that they were notified after the DEC. I think the first line is DEC of any spill, then the Department of Health. We don't think it's substantial enough for there to be fines, but if there were to be fines, we would aggressively require the developer to pay the fines. Yep. Which brings us to parcel B. So if you can imagine the mental shift in town hall, you're coming back from the scene of this pretty significant problem in the park, and you're being asked to expedite the signature on the deed, which conveys parcel B to the developer who just had the breach. It's an awkward feeling. And so we have been in conference with our attorneys throughout this thing, and we have a meeting tomorrow with 2 attorneys and 2 engineers, possibly 3 engineers. And basically, it's a complicated situation. And if I dive too deeply, I'll confuse everybody, including myself. So just generally, there is what's called a master agreement. It was executed when Bill Thomas was the supervisor in 2005. So it's 21 years old. It's not a definitive working document because so much has changed since the agreement was put together. The park has changed, traffic flow in the park has changed. There's a ski lodge, there's a venue there, there's parking situations that were not even thought of in 2005. In addition to that, there's agreements with regards to the water district and the wells. We're going to hear more about the wells shortly, but just to give you an idea, there's a reference that anticipates well number 5 in the master agreement and the sub-agreement being providing water to Front Street possibly. That well is not functional at this time except by manual operation. And again, we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. So we will go to the meeting, but as of the last meeting, there were between 4 and 6 impediments to us signing the deed to move forward to that. I think the larger question also is twofold. Number one, can the master agreement survive and be enforceable? Is it still applicable? Or do we have to step back away from the whole thing? And number two, is the white elephant in the room is my mental set in dealing with the request to convey parcel B as a favor to the developer who won't clean up his poop pile. So that's where we are with that.
One other thing I want to add is the 21-year-old contractor master plan that we had. One of the things that should be looked at on that strongly is land values have changed tremendously since that time. That alone should negate that contract, in my idea, is my thoughts. I mean, you can't be held to something that's no longer current because of changes like that.
It's a real issue. The contract master agreement that was signed in '05 anticipates a payment to the town of $200,000 in park enhancements. So $200,000 in 2005 is certainly worth something different in a park. If we factor in inflation, economic change, the insertion of a major venue that's going to attract odds of 40,000 people a season, and a $40 million facility generally that includes a restaurant and a ski lodge and 2 new lifts that were not in operation at the time of the master agreement. So I think it's a very appropriate comment. So, water district. So we've been working on this. This is a daily thing. Very generally, there's well 1, 2, and 3, and none of them are in service, okay? Then there is well 4, 5, and 6. 4 and 6 are functional, as I said at the last meeting. 5 is only functional manually, so it's not really working, and it's not typically on unless our operator, the engineers, are running it. So in order to kind of meet the challenge of some growth, as well as existing output and appropriate output for our water demands now, including residential water service and fire protection, we're looking at trying to get well 5 back to where it should be so that it's not manually operating, that it's operating like well 4 and 6 is. And that would get it up to, if we can be lucky, something like 160, 165,000 gallons a minute. That would be a goal. As we do all this, we have to look back at water infrastructure changes that have been made over the years. And they've been made oftentimes in an inflationary and expensive environment. Chemicals, electric, very expensive. We had a grant, a project grant for phase 1 and 2 to enhance the system in the amount of $5.2 million, I believe. Is that correct today, 5.2? 5.325. You don't even sound like Danae. So That being the case, depending on how much of that we accomplish, the grant, the water funding has a match to it, a local match that is either 60/40 or 50/50, I believe. So the first phase of this was capital improvements, including the water tower that would be just south of Basil and Wicks, up the road, up that hill. It's been there forever, but it wasn't in working order. It was leaking, had issues. That was repaired in the first phase. We replaced another tank, a booster station was upgraded, and there are plans to do more in the Holcomb Street area and so on, but we're not sure how much of the grant funds and matching funds will have been expended. The board passed a resolution in October 7th of 25. And I know that there have been a lot of concerns expressed about the water bills that just came out. So I had this item on the agenda before those concerns were expressed, but they are all interrelated. So the resolution that was passed in '05 set the water rates to become effective with the bills that folks just received at the district today and yesterday. And I have a copy of that resolution. That resolution was created and established as a result of multiple presentations by the town's engineering team, including, I think it was a slideshow on 2 different evenings outlining the expenses, the infrastructure, and so on. That's a general sense of it. I'd like to introduce one of the engineers from Cedarwood who is here, Nick Bandel, to maybe talk a little bit more specific in engineering terms of what we're looking at, how the costs have accrued, what terms they used to try to come up with that payment schedule. And again, we have a debt service in play now. And so the debt service is in play as we do the construction projects, and we are at a point where we've started to service that debt. And so that, again, he'll give a more detailed analysis, but the district payments are generally broken into 2 parts. One is called connection fee, and the other is called usage. Think of the phrase connection fee, it's maybe not the best. It's an in-district fee. If you live in the district, even if you have a property with no improvements on it, you still pay a fee to the district, and that's been the case. So that's a controversial thing. People have expressed concern. If I have my well, why am I paying for any fees at all associated with the water district? And basically, this resolution from October 7th of 25 amended the existing water regs, and that's how this came to be. So I'm going to turn it over to Nick for a couple of minutes, and I'm going to just urge him, yes.
When you have a double lot, I mean, I can understand a water bill for one lot, but the other lot, which is nothing is built on it, nothing will ever be built on it, but yet we pay a biannual, twice a year.
Twice a year,
Yeah.
every 6 months, yeah.
Connection fee, which is about $25, and you guys getting $50
Can I repeat her question?
for
Yep.
something that sits in the ground or whatever, nothing's hooked up for, and now it just went up from $25 that we pay to $87 that we pay every 6 months.
I'm going
To
to,
me, that seems like an awful lot of money for something that sits there, does nothing, and I would like to know if we could have that capped off. I don't want to pay it.
So first of all, Mindy is going to just repeat your question because we're trying to make sure that people outside can hear this on the internet.
the folks on the
online.
virtual that are signed into virtually, the question was, if I have 2 lots and I get 2 water bills, why is that? If I only have access or usage on one of those lots, correct? And so rather than $25 for each, which is $50 total. This year they're up to $87. Is that each in your most recent bill or the total?
It's just on our second lot.
The empty lot. Okay, so the empty lot went up. And rather than,
I don't know if we could get that capped off, because I don't wanna pay
hang on,
this every
well,
6 months.
let's, hang on, Danae is access. Becomes one. So Danae pointed out that if you combine your two parcels, it becomes one fee, but the access fee, which is called connection fee, is an access for every individual piece of property.
And the one thing I want to add, and I know Paul just said this, you can get the merger done through help with Warren County, with the Warren County Tax Mapping Department, and they would basically take, this is not how they really do it, but think of them taking an eraser and getting rid of the line that separates the two parcels if they adjoin each other. Then it would be one, and that would save you money for sure. The thing that I want to go back a little bit more on, this didn't all just come down out of the blue. And my learning curve on it has been pretty steep because it was before I was here and before most of the board. There was a 2023 audit by the New York State Comptroller's Department of the water district. And I'm not going to say we failed, but we didn't do well. And they were highly critical. And that's why these changes had to be made, infrastructure changes. The water system originates, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but the year 1935, I think, or 34 for some of it. And so some of the structures in there have been terribly weak. We've done upgrades of the mains on Main Street in North Creek, I think from Route 28 all the way down to the bridge where the town hall is. But if you see some of this stuff that was in the ground, it hadn't been touched in decades and decades. For some more specifics on all of this, I'd like to introduce Nick, who's sitting next to Danae, and he can also take some specific questions. Yeah, come on up.
Microphone is on.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Nick Bandel. I'm with Cedarwood Engineering. I'm just here tonight to give a kind of brief overview of the water district, as Sterling said. Just to go back a little bit, this process with Cedarwood and the town of Johnsburg kind of started in 2018 for a current project. We've been helping with the water district with our sister company, Cedarwood Operations, too. The system overview, the water system kind of is comprised right now of there's 3 source wells, and then there's 3 storage tanks, and then there's 2 pressure zones with it. In this current iteration of the project, when we're first talking about the billing, back in February 2025, I came here to do a presentation based on water rent increases due to O&M, operation and maintenance costs. So the water rents, Sterling pointed out in the 2023 audit, there was an old kind of ledger with a lot of impropriety. What we did was we consolidated all the water rents to certain classes, basic residential class, a 1-bedroom, different commercial classes, and different municipal classes, i.e. a restaurant or a bar. That is the schedule that was sent out to everybody in the last billing with your receipts. And that is the most up-to-date schedule. So during February 2025, I had a presentation and we talked about the increases due to balance the budget for operation and maintenance. In March of 2025, I had another presentation and that was to talk about the ongoing water project. And then that was set, and these rate increases of 175, and then I think the other one's corresponding is 350 for commercial and municipal. Those rate increases were put on that presentation in March 2025. And what that is those increases were to collect the money for the debt service that is accrued by the current capital improvement project. And this brings us to the WIA funding in the current project. So the current project has WIA funding, which is Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. It is put on through New York State, through the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, or EFC. And in 2018, we applied for that. It's actually a very competitive grant right now, but a very good grant and one of the most lucrative ones that is available for water. It is 60% grant, and then 40% is a local match, which is a loan. Per municipal law, special districts, water districts, they have to be paid all of the improvements by the ratepayers of the water district only. So not everybody in the town pays for the water district. It's the people who are the ratepayers and users of that water district who benefit from it are the ones who have to pay it and handle the burden of the capital cost. And that's per municipal law for New York State. And that actually ties into the same thing is it wasn't created to for vacant lots just to say, oh, we're going to charge every vacant lot or vacant parcel. That was set by the comptroller's office and identified in the audit, and that is part of municipal law. So as Danae pointed out, the only real way to get out of that, it's tied by state law. Nobody can change it here. It has to be a merge of a parcel would be the most conducive way to do that, in our opinion. But the WIA funding is very good, and I'm just going to give you a brief overview of where we are at the project and where we started. So we started at phase 1. That was the improvements of the south tank, which did have a bunch of pinholes in it. It was beginning to fail. It was a replacement of that tank with a new tank next to it, about the same size, a glass fused to steel tank, and then demolition of the old tank. And then if everybody remembers with Main Street ripped up, right, we did 5,000 feet approximately of water main, including all the side street connections and booster station upgrades, which help facilitate the proper running of the upper pressure system. There's actually 2 in the town. There's one on where the church is on Main Street. On the northern side is one lower pressure zone. On the southern side is the upper pressure zone. Not to get too into the minutia here. But phase 2, that was phase 1, and phase 2 is ongoing. These rate increases that you have seen, those pay for the entirety of the debt service of the project because you need to start collecting a period before the project is completely done. So the rates due to the debt service won't increase any more for this project. So that's your connection fee. So that rate connection fee part only increases with a capital improvement project. This is the capital improvement project. The remaining phase 2 and the remaining work of the $5.325 million budget is included in that rate increase.
So it doesn't go back to the old cost?
The loan, that the debt service is a 30-year debt service. So after 30 years, theoretically, the rate could be evaluated and then determined because you no longer have to make that payment. A lot of times what happens is some people then try to keep it the same because everybody's having that burden and they find a new, design life of water systems, depending on what it is 50 to 80 years, depends on what you're looking at. Some are lower, some are 30. Pumps are 15 years. So there's certain things that are expected and there's certain things that are long design life. But that does go up in 30 years, and then that corresponding rate or debt service payment is eliminated essentially, right? You pay back the loan.
I think
No,
the short answer is no. It's not going to go down.
Yeah, but for this is the rate payment, the reimbursement schedule for the loan has been established. So that is directly to fund that reimbursement payment. It's not adding money to the bank. It's just to pay that off. It's a complete balance of a budget. It's completely balancing one for one. All right, and then so for phase 2, as Sterling mentioned, also helps with well 5. Phase 2, we have into DOH right now, Department of Health, for permitting. We had to give a couple things to change the scope of the original project. Basically, right now we're tackling and we're hoping to have it out to bid in the next month or so. We're waiting for final DOH approval. It is controls upgrades for the existing well houses in the middle tank. So what that is it basically tells your water level in your system hits a certain point, gets so low. Right now, there's old mercury switches in a radio that triggered on, and that's starting to fail. And it's kind of failing in the point of well 5, where it has an underground cable that is failing and isn't really working. So it can't run in auto, as we call it. It has to run in hand or manually. So that this improvements project allows for a new cellular-based system and slightly satellite-based cellular fails. So this way that the entire system can run automatically and it'll increase the efficiency of the wells. It allows for operator alarm notification immediately, which the nice part is then the operators can figure out that there's an issue and solve it before you all realize there's an issue. And then, we learned there's an issue based on a complaint at, 12 o'clock at night, hey guys, we're out of water, because we don't get a, direct notification that a well's down. That is a very valuable thing. As well as we will also have emergency power hookups for the generator that was purchased in the previous phase of the water project. So there'll be emergency power hookups for each well. So now if the if the power's out for a long time, you don't just have to rely on the storage of your tanks. You can also rely on that generator to power one of the wells and get some yield out of that. The remaining parts of phase 2, and really we almost call this phase 3 now, but the remaining portion of the project is there's identified in order of importance is modifications to Peaceful Valley Road. Right about after Bex, there's an existing 2-inch galvanized line that would be upsized to 6-inch line. And then with the remaining funds based on where the bid comes in from the electrical and wells controls upgrades that I previously described, that will allow for either side street looping, which helps with water quality turnover. It's not necessary, but it's a good improvement for overall water quality, or a redundant transmission main, which would be basically there's one path that water goes from the wells to the main distribution system. If anything were to happen, then there's no redundancy as far as how it would get to the main distribution system to everybody. So that adds a redundant line from the wells. So those are the remaining portions of the project. Again, we plan on starting them soon, and our main focus is to get the wells and the supply operable at their maximum efficiency. And as well as maximum efficiency, we're also going to be doing variable frequency drives on the wells. That'll kind of improve the performance and longevity of the pumps. It gives them a delayed start time and improves their design life a little bit there.
Anybody have any questions or comments or thoughts for Nick?
Yeah.
Scott?
We get charged $133 for the water.
133. So 133 would be a typical. Okay, sorry. Just got to divide them by 2, right? Because these are annual listed, and I know you're charged twice a year. So 133 would be a typical residential. Correct. So that's based on what your anticipated water usage is, because you don't have meters.
Again, graduate Johnsburg, so maybe I misunderstand what connection fee means. That seems to me as a one-time fee. Why am I being billed twice a month, twice a year? And not only at a rate of $25 previously, to now $87 rate, and it's a single lot.
Yeah. So that rate, like I said, it's based on the number of users. If you can imagine, it's almost an equation. It's the number of users all divided sharing that debt service. And commercial, they get double the value, right? They have to pay twice the amount. But it's all the ratepayers, and then you divide your annual debt service payment for the current capital improvement project. Yeah, so the capital improvement project, as I described, that the portions that have been completed definitely benefit the entire district. And the portion that we're looking at right now with the wells benefits the entire district, right? Everybody's benefited by the wells, the supply wells of the district operating correctly. And then same thing with the storage tank that was improved. So that, and then the main of water or on Main Street, that actually, that tied into the flat. So that was the main transmission, your branch, where we benefited the trunk line there.
We can all see that this connection fee that everybody pays, the connections will get
No, incorrect. So the next phases are included in that. So that service payment is for the entirety of the project budget. So that project budget will be used to pay for the next couple phases. There's still remaining money in that $5.325 million. Not all of it was spent. No, this was a direct balance of the budget. So before it was just taking the rates and turning over the previous rate schedule into new one with that sectioned out. And now this connection fee is just, its sole purpose is to pay back that debt service. So it's directly proportional to the amount of rate users and to the amount of debt service. And it is phase 2 and phase 3 that I talked about, those are factored into it already. So it's not going to go up. The only time it would go up, and this is at a time it would go up, right? But there's a $5.325 million project. If you have another capital improvement project, that fee order to have a capital improvement project, and this process happened in 2018, you have to do what's called a bond resolution. The town board can't just say, hey, we're going to take out a public hearing, a notice of estoppel period. They have to have public input and notification. It's like a 3 or 4 month process. Yep. So all of that will happen before that this connection fee gets touched. And in that presentation, you must state what the impact is going to be to rate users too. This charge will stay there as the payment is there, the debt service, but it will not go up. The only time that'll go up is with an additional capital improvement project, which all of this stuff would happen. And I just want to also state that the previous board, or last year in 2025, right, when we did all this and we revisited the project, there was a bond resolution process way back in 2018, 2019, when this originally started. They got the grant, applied for it. To do the due diligence, though, last year in March, right after they reconciled the O&M costs, in March they had the presentation and they did a resolution to proceed. That was their attempt they didn't need to do it, but they wanted to get public input again before they proceeded, or if they wanted to pump their brakes halfway through the project. And then we presented the different scenarios of the debt service to users. Even though it was all technically approved legally, they went back and tried to get additional public input then, that presentation then. But yeah, no, this is where it's at. It'll only go up with another capital improvement.
Nick?
Yep.
Can I just have you restate again that the amount of money for the debt service is 40% of the grant? So
Yes.
60% when grants are given, there's always a matching funds. So the 40% is what the district users are responsible for, right? So that's where that comes from. I just want to state it again. I don't think everybody on virtual meeting got to hear that.
Yep. No, that's correct. It's more than 50%, right? That's a decent grant when you're getting more than half your money there.
The one
Yes.
thing I would add with regards to Scott's question too, and I don't know if you agree with me or disagree with me, Nick, but I find the word connection fee to be a bad way of putting it in the agreement. I don't think it's actually descriptive of what that fee is. I think we probably could have picked a better word somehow.
I feel like it's
I called somebody to find out exactly what that was. They told me it was, if something wants to be built on our second lot, they have to connect.
Yeah, some,
Whoever's there to the-
access.
the town water.
Access is the word.
no,
And that's what that fee is. That's why I didn't understand why we're paying it constantly when nothing's ever going to be built on our second lot.
yeah, some places call it, some places do call it a connection fee. It's been called that here. It can also be called a capital improvement fee a lot of times we see, which kind of basically says it's covering capital improvement projects. It's also, sometimes they call it a capital recovery fee. The problem is you can also do capital recovery fee when you hook up to a water district as a water buy-in. That's synonymous too.
Isn't it almost an in-district fee?
And it can also be called an in-district fee, and that's what's called in a lot of other districts too, right? You have
So
lighting
you see what I
districts.
mean? It's because you're there.
In district fee.
It's not because you've connected. They should not have used the word connect.
Mhm.
It's because you're there.
So by merging, if I merge something, then I'm not, what am I going to say?
You're there once rather than twice.
You're making it one lot rather than two. It's
Correct.
viewed that
You'll
way
you'll
as a
cut your
water
cost
district.
in half annually for as long as you live.
So if you have a large piece of property that is, you have 4 lots on it, you're getting 4 fees. But if you're not ever going to develop anything and you want to merge them, then there'd be 1 fee.
Who do we contact in regards to merging? I don't understand the merging.
County.
So Warren County, and I can get you a number, but it's the real property tax map office. They're really user-friendly, and they can get it done. I don't know whether, I don't even think they need a board resolution. I think they can get it done at a property owner's request.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're really good. Yes, sir.
There's other tax advantages too.
Are you looking for different aquifers in case we ever need them?
The question is, are you looking for different aquifers in case we ever need them?
As far as the aquifers, there are 3 wells. They're spread enough so that they're really not really having too much hydraulic influence on each other. They're all over the same place, but they're far enough to where they're kind of general influence isn't tapping each other. Yes, you get so close and you have a main aquifer that you really are hitting, which there's so much, we're not in the Midwest. There's aquifers are really healthy right here. But I will say that there are some ideas floating around as far as other, additional wells. The town is, what the water district is perfectly fine on yield right now. But that is something that is always, a good thing to have is multiple wells. So I think that there's some preliminary talks about looking for locations of other wells, but it's not a direct need right now. It may be, based on certain development trends or people wanting to develop in the future.
It's a good question, though, and it is on our minds. I don't remember if I mentioned this 2 weeks ago or not, Chris. 10 years ago, 11 years ago, there was another developer who was looking to do a project off of East Holcomb Street. And part of our negotiations with him was he was going to establish and donate a well, and that was a different aquifer. But he walked away from that project for whatever reason. So it's the sort of thing that we have to keep it on our mind constantly, because there may be another opportunity like that.
Just actually another random quick note about that.
One other quick question. Wells 1, 2, and 3, could they ever be rehabbed, resurfaced, or put back in service?
Definitely not well 3. Because I know that that's down by where the wastewater system is being built.
All right.
And it has to be actually fully capped and abandoned. Well, 2 and 1, I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't know if the issue was yield or if it was location, or sometimes people want to develop. And I'm trying to remember where it's, if you keep going, I think you go past the railroad as you're turning to go up onto 28 before you T, they're both right over there on the right.
Yes, they are.
I don't know why, sometimes it's development, sometimes there's, you want to get away from contaminant sources. Maybe there's being close to the railroad track. I really can't speak on them. I know that it's been shied away from for so long that I think, we try to find the issue, but it might be better to evaluate new sources if
Thank
that
you.
would, you wanted more yield.
Other questions? Yes, Peter.
Peter's asking about water meters. Are we considering water meters?
I'm uncertain of where that discussion kind of left off. I've seen municipalities do phasing of water meters, and usually what happens is you do phasing of commercial properties first. So you kind of, you phase in commercial properties, all mandated water, and then, residential water meters. The problem is when you get into the cost of installing a water meter and the cost of the water meter themselves, usually it's easiest to you either get a grant or it's borne by all the water ratepayers, and it becomes really tricky as far as balancing a budget and system equity to allow for both water meters and having an approximation based on ETU, which is what you currently have. So a hybrid collection system kind of gets really tricky to do. Yeah, and that's kind of usually the big pitfall. But if that's a avenue that people would proceed for, our recommendation usually is to start with start the discussion. It's going to take a while, get a lot of public input, talk about the ramifications of that, and then start off with commercial and go to residential. But I don't think there's been any talk in water meters in a while. Correct me if I'm wrong, board.
There was a question about it at the last meeting, but I don't think there have been any substantial discussions. Jeff?
With modern day aquifer pollution, would you wise to try to explore surface water?
No, I mean, surface water is so much more prone to, and sorry, I guys give a blunt answer. It's the engineer, bad habit. DOH is there's 3 classes of water sources. There is surface water, there's GWITY, which is groundwater under direct influence of surface water, and then there's groundwater. DOH always prefers groundwater. There's a lot less natural contaminants that can happen. Your surface water is so much more prone to contamination, and it costs way more to treat than your groundwater typically does. Groundwater, if you have something bad in it, usually either, walk away from the well or you treat it out, like you were going to walk away from arsenic. You might treat out sulfur. You might treat out a little bit of hardness here. Surface water, you got to worry about disinfection byproducts a little bit more. There's more contaminants. You really want a higher log inactivation. It's a lot more expensive treatment and operation and maintenance. If groundwater can be done, groundwater is recommended. You guys have sufficient groundwater here. I think it would get shut down at DOH approval. Yep.
And I can remember PFOA contamination of the well, or of the water, but not to a level that wasn't accepted by the DOA.
Yep.
I really remember that PFOA is not even showing up on the other side of the river.
Yeah, PFOAs, I think you're required to sample. I don't know what the sampling regimen is. I don't know if they do every 1 or 5 years. It's not a lot. I know that I don't know what the regulation is now. They always drop it, right? But the PFAS, PFOAs, that has dropped the allowable level for that. I don't think there's any issues in the district right now for that. That is more prevalent in groundwater though. Yeah, I don't even know if they're near like non-detect at this point. I'm uncertain where they are, but I know it hasn't been flagged, and I think it'd be flagged on the annual water quality report that is published. Okay. Oh, yeah, no, that's not. Yeah, it's they call it the forever chemical. It gets everywhere, and they've lowered the testing accuracy to where it has a low limit of detection, and then they're dropping the limit of kind of being allowed. And yeah, you're right. That treatment is a lot. It's granular activated carbon, and you kind of scour through it if you need to. But again, I from what I've seen, you guys don't have to worry about it in your wells. And surface water is still very competitive with how much treatment it requires. DOH wouldn't, yeah. If you have groundwater, they won't even bat an eye at surface water. It's a direct no for them.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Nick.
So moving on, this brings us to number 6, which relates back to the first part of 5. There's a resolution in the packet to amend the insurance coverage to increase our umbrella from $4 to $6 million at no cost or perhaps pennies by modifying our deductibles. I would look for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Yes.
Discussion.
My question, Sterling, is the overall cost for the insurance where's the number?
It's in
It's
there.
100,000, right? 101? 100.1? I think it's at the back at the bottom.
Someplace in there's a
Number 12.
comparison.
Page 12, sorry.
Page 12.
Sorry.
100,560.
Yes. And what was our budget for this year for insurance?
Danae?
I think I have 91, so I just wanted to know.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
Because
Okay.
that last one was amended with 7,000 more, 7,500, I think it was.
All right.
So we were up really close to the 100,000.
Okay,
Okay. Okay.
okay.
So that's why this is kind of negligible.
All right, okay. That was,
Further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Number 7, resolution for easement for Selco Partnership DBA Verizon on Shields Road, and that's in the package as well. We'll look for a motion. Second.
motion.
Second.
Motion made, seconded.
You guys are fast.
This guy there, quick. I
So,
feel like I'm at a tennis match, you know?
what, so my question,
Mhm.
and this is, Johnsburg is such a large area to understand all the crevices and nuances and properties is very difficult. I credit the assessors for being very good at this. What is it? This is owned by the town of Johnsburg? Is that?
Yes,
Yes.
it's a town road.
It's a town
And,
road.
and it's a town road, so all we're doing is giving them easement to be on the town road
Correct, and then
to
they'll.
that
If you
larger,
look at the map, they'll end up at the lot that's just broken off at the top.
so it'll just go up to
Yes.
this lot.
That's
Yeah.
right.
All right,
That's
that
it.
seems
Yep.
pretty simple to me.
Yep.
Okay.
And within that, if I can clarify too, within that, on that road, because of where it is, they do have to remove a portion, a little small portion of a stone wall
Okay.
that exists in order to get their equipment
That's
in.
drawn in there too. I
And
think.
that's drawn in there, so.
Where is that stone? Is that
I pulled
just the
that-
wall?
Yeah, I
Oh,
pulled that map for him,
okay. All right.
so.
Further discussion?
Nope.
I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Resolution to proceed for street sweeping. Question arose as to whether we had sought enough proposals on this. I know there's been discussions about that, and Fred Comstock, our highway superintendent's here, and I'm hopeful that he could give us just a couple of updates on that. It's kind of a difficult situation. Hang on just a second.
Can you
Fred.
grab the mic right there?
Here,
It's-
I'll grab
it's
it for you.
Wireless for you. That way everybody can hear. Okay, thanks, Fred.
Yeah, I contacted Kingsbury Sweeping. We've had them in the past. They gave me a quote first, of $250 an hour and $125 an hour for travel time. They since came back, since we were the first town to contact them this year, and told me that they're dropping their fee to $200 an hour, which was nice. I called DA Collins, who we had last year. They came in for one day, dropped us and went to state work and never came back. Couldn't return until late January or June. And we ended up doing it ourselves, which was not real easy for us to do. They no longer are doing it. Their salesman contacted me Monday and said that they weren't sweeping anymore, not offering the service. So this morning at 8 o'clock, I called Canada, who has give us a quote in the past. They said before that they had to come so far from Albany that they couldn't compete. And when I called him this morning, he said they're no longer offering the service and that we should call Kingsbury. So we got 3 people we've reached out to, and the only one that can do it is Kingsbury. And they were always the best price. Hopefully, they'll come and get it done. We're hoping for the last week of April. Get it done before first week of May, which always was Whitewater.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Okay, would entertain a motion in a second to
Motion.
approve the street sweeping.
Motion.
Motion made. Has your chance.
I'll second it
Motion seconded.
going forward.
Further board discussion. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Number 9 is pulled at this time. We're not ready to proceed. Number 10 is a resolution in the packet to authorize approval of attendance at the Adirondack Planning Forum, May 6th and 7th, 2026. I would entertain a motion.
Motion,
Motion
Second.
made, seconded, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. 11 is a small matter, but it's an opportunity to save a couple of bucks. It's a resolution to authorize prepayment of credit card accounts. We found that sometimes if we, and Danae, interrupt me if you want, we found that sometimes if we wait for the regular meeting schedule, we're incurring a late fee. So we want to pay them and avoid any of the late fees that we can, even if it's $5 or $10. So that's all that is. Entertain a motion?
motion,
Okay.
Second.
Made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Warrants are also attached and would entertain a motion in that regard.
So moved.
Moved and
Second.
second. Discussion on the warrants.
None.
None. All in favor of calling the question?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us to committee reports. And what did we decide to go down the table last
Should
time?
we can start with me.
Okay.
I am going to report on sewer. Yes, thank you. So we finally had legal review the rules and regs, which we're actually now going to call sewer use laws based upon their recommendations. And we've finally incorporated some of their comments, did some updates, so we're going to give it back to them. I think we have a few comments for Cedarwood, not specifically for Nick, but for his group to review on. And I have gotten out the verbose thick document to the board to see, and I can understand if you maybe not looked at it yet, because it's not easy, but at least you have abilities to look at it. So we're going to be moving that along. Cedarwood has been working to contact the people that are connecting the laterals. And so they've been able to get, they have been able to get a number of people now, right? Excellent. And so they're being able to update their items so that we can get a bid package ready, I believe. All right. Well, I'll discuss with Nick later. Also, construction is, it's still winter out there, but I think there has been some movement. It looks like some new equipment has been moved in, I think. Am I? Okay. All right. Now, it looked like some equipment had been moved. It looked different than it had been for the last month or so. So that is progress. So that's my update for sewer, but I just wanted to give a reminder on my own little side note of the New York State brush ban, fire ban going on, which started on Monday. And I just did a walk looking at some things in my property, and the ground is dry as soon as that snow goes. So just a reminder to hold off on brush burning until mid-May.
And remember to come and get a permit from me before you do it.
Come
There you
get a
go.
permit from Jean before you do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Got a couple of different updates. Anna Bowers is not here this evening, as you know, because she is in Spain with the school. She is one of the chaperones for the trip. But I'll give a quick update on the comp plan committee. The two grants that we have for the Mill Creek project and the Mountain to Rivers project are advancing. They are in a holding pattern a little bit right now, anticipating that the Mill Creek project will start this summer. The holding pattern is really just waiting for the state to sign the contracts for those grants. And once that happens, we're getting monthly updates from the county planning committee or the county planning department, and they'll be letting us know when we're ready to start moving forward again. We are right now vetting and seeking some matching funds from private organizations and entities for the small amount of matching funds actually that we're going to need. It's quite encouraging to hear that we've got a large grant that's only going to require somewhere between, estimated is about $9,000 to $20,000 to get the project done. So that's really great. We've got business toolkit in progress of development. Actually, myself, Christine Powers, and Anna are working on that. We anticipate getting a landing page, homepage up by summertime. And it's going to have basically some universal needs, trying to direct and support entrepreneurs and businesses operating in the town of Johnsburg. The goal is really to launch it and have available resources so that we can kind of expedite the process and get people set up in whether storefronts here, in the hamlets, connecting them with available open spaces, and get them the resources that they need, not just in the permitting process, but planning, zoning, so that they can understand what they're up against. Some of them are coming forth and not knowing that they need APA. So they need to, where do they need to go? So it's really more of a directional for them. We feel like that's going to be a really helpful piece. So we're working on that. The first out of the gate, we're going to work on the pop-up businesses and home-based businesses because we feel that that's the first place that we're going to have impact. And those are generally trying to operate even into at the summertime. So that'll be first. Comprehensive plan priorities right now are the Parks and Recreation initiatives with both the Mill Creek and Mountains to Rivers grant projects and the business-friendly toolkit. We're looking for some other things along the way that we will focus on, and that will keep moving. We are kind of overlapping a little bit with that, with the comp plan committee and our economic development and marketing committee. The Economic Development Marketing Committee is doing some significant research and work on workforce housing. And just for clarity's sake, I think there's a misconception about workforce housing versus low-income housing or affordable housing. Workforce housing is housing that that meets the criteria of median range income. So it's teachers, aides, nurses, that type of those types of individuals in our community that are having trouble finding housing and affording homes. We are looking at the resources that are currently available as support for existing homes. New York State has a lot of programs right now through the Housing Authority that they are providing funds and funding to update existing homes, to bring them into compliance, and or we found some very creative ways in the workforce housing forum that I went to that can really develop properties in our area specifically for workforce housing, and they carry restrictions that they cannot ever be put into Airbnb or VRBOs. So it restricts them from STRs. So it keeps it in, keeps our housing inventory in a place where it is strictly for our residents, for full-time residents. So it really does support those folks. And again, some creative options and opportunities for us to match up contractors and developers that can build that workforce housing at prices that are not at current square footage prices. The metrics that they are working with and some of the tools that they've given us to pursue help us to build homes not at the $400 a square foot, which, believe it or not, that's the average right now. And it's bringing it down to somewhere in the $275 range. So they can actually build a home that's going to be on the market for individuals at $250,000 to $300,000 at the max. And they've even been doing better than that in some of the markets, depending on some of the towns in the Adirondacks. So I was really encouraged by that, and we are going to pursue a number of different of those pieces and parts and bring them together. So that's kind of our highest initiative and focus right now. We've also got some work done on the STRs, so short-term rentals, looking at permits. I've gathered some of the ones that have been passed, local laws in other towns around us. So we'll be reconvening in our meeting in April to talk about those. And I had one more. And with marketing, we are open for the OCTAX. The occupancy tax workshop is going to be the end of March 31st. So, March 31st. April, we'll have rolling applications. Anyone who's applying between April 1st and April 15th, we'll have another workshop at the end of April. So we'll invite you to come to that. We can talk about that application. And in our usage of our marketing budget, we are looking at a number of different things, but trying to partner a little bit more with not just Warren County, but I've also reached out to Roost that handles everything in the North Country. And I'm happy to report that already today I had a response from them that they are going to bring their Porsche Club down here in June. And they're going to be at Rev Rail. They're going to go out and have a lunch at Timber and Time. There'll be 2 groups of Porsches here every day from Tuesday through Friday, the June 16th to the 19th, I think it is. And kind of the exciting part is that they asked, and I've talked to Pete, they'd asked if we could close off a portion of Main Street in front of the Mosaic so that they can have a professional photographer do photography. And I think that's a pretty cool opportunity. So if we can get some more collaborative things happening with that, with them as well as with Warren County, I think we're going to see a little more of a flow through here and bring them to Main Street. So, hopefully work with the Main Street businesses to make sure that they're open and rocking and rolling during those times. So that's it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Paul?
Not much this month. I'm sure we'll have a solid waste meeting before the next meeting here, and we'll have something. I don't believe there's been a whole lot going on, unless you got something else to report, Pete. Oh, very good.
No
Just
comment.
grab it.
All right, very good. Thank you.
All set?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, that brings us to privilege of the floor. Any comment? Yes, sir. Can you come up to the mic and state your name?
We are getting good feedback that from those attending virtually, they can actually hear everything that goes on. So appreciate your patience and if we repeat your questions.
Hi, I'm Jerry Harris from here in North Creek. I'm speaking tonight for myself and also for Arthur Webb. Art couldn't be here tonight. He's out of town on some business. I just want to read something into the record that we distributed to the members of the board. And I will qualify my comments by saying Supervisor Goodspeed covered a lot of this in his earlier remarks regarding Front Street. But at the March 4th town board meeting, Supervisor Goodspeed raised a set of issues related to the use and status of Parcel B at the ski bowl that dates back to the 2005 agreement with Front Street to develop a hotel. Arthur and we strongly support the board reviewing this agreement due to several factors. It should be stated that we don't have all the facts to be definitive, and we're looking forward to being better informed as more information is gathered and dispensed to us. But our concerns are the following. For over 20 years, Front Street has not advanced its original intent to build a hotel. The lack of performance calls into question any further support for this project. The ski bowl developments by ORDA, including the establishment of the lodge, the zip chair, and new lifts, perhaps makes the Front Street project incompatible with the current and proposed use of the ski bowl. And then with the town also committed to closing the sand pit, that'll enhance the park use and viability. And again, waiting for Front Street to complete all the permitting and other regulatory requirements, it frustrates the town's timing, might increase our cost to enhance the parkland. Therefore, Arthur and I think the town shouldn't rush into signing any deed or move to sell the property at this point, should revisit the original agreement because of the lack of performance by Front Street. And additionally, we think it's essential that the town gather all the facts before taking information. And that's all we have to say on that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Additional privilege of the floor. Any other comments, thoughts? Then I would entertain. Oh, sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Just a quick question in regards to, are we getting paid through here this thing?
Fred, you want to talk about that? Paving plans? Do you have information on it though? What their schedule is? Could you get it for the next? Ski Bowl and Dump Road? Okay. When you have a chance, could you reach out to Warren County and just see what their schedule is? All right.
Booked.
So we're addressing whether or not Main Street will be paved this year, but obviously there's still sewer work to be done the entire year. So with that not coming on. Yeah. So,
Oh, I guess that would be a different concern, would just be,
Yeah.
you know, maintenance of
Yes.
holes within.
Yes.
Yes. Well, yeah. Oh, yes.
right. Okay. We'll get an update. Yeah. 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 We have been talking, Pete and, well, Economic Development Committee and Peter, about how the Main Street will actually be finished with the lighting. We need curb cuts for ADA, and it would be good to, we're going to try to coordinate that with the county so that when it is going to get done, that everything gets done at one time so that it's not piecemeal and then, something gets missed. So we're going to continue to pursue that.
And you can get me that information, Fred, when you get it, and then I'll bring it to the next meeting. Okay. Motion to, oh, I think it can be, Fred. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay. So Fred is going to talk with Kevin Hajos, who's County DPW, on the issues that Scott raises regarding, it's near the school, correct? All three of the cross culverts. Okay, yeah. Okay, Candace, I see.
Okay, she's asking about a crosswalk.
Yeah, I think that was discussed 10 or 15 years ago, and I'm not sure where it ever ended, but I think it's a great proposal and it's a safety proposal. I mean, there are also kids events in there, school events that are in there. I think it's a great idea. Let's raise that as well if we could, Fred. Awesome, awesome. Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion made, seconded.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good work.
Yes.
What's going on?